Hello students, today we will discuss about the topic Nationalism in India, in which we will talk about how participants perceive the movements, the limits of civil disobedience movement. Here, when we talk about the participants, they are the different social groups who took active participation in the civil disobedience movement. First, we will talk about the rich peasants. The rich peasants like the Patidars of Gujarat and the Jats of Uttar Pradesh took active participation in the movement. Being producers of commercial crop, they were very hard hit by the trade depression and falling prices. As the government refused to reduce the revenue, a great number of people participated in the boycott program. For them, the fight for Swaraj was a struggle against high revenue. But they were deeply disappointed when the movement was called off in 1931 without the revenue rates being revised. So, when the movement was restarted in 1932, that is your civil disobedience movement part 2, many of them refused to participate. The next group we can find over there is about the poor peasants. When we talk of poor peasants, it means the poor farmers. So they were not just interested in reducing the revenue demands, but they were small tenants cultivating the land they had rented from the landlords. As the Great Depression continued and cash incomes were finishing up, the small tenants found it difficult to pay their rent. They wanted that the unpaid rent to the landlord should be cancelled or remitted. But the Congress was unwilling to support the no rent campaigns in most places which were started by them. So the relationship between the poor peasants and the Congress remained quite uncertain when the civil disobedience movement was being launched the second time. Next group of people we talk about are the industrial workers. They did not participate in the civil disobedience movement in large numbers except in the Nagpur region. As the industrialists came closer to the Congress, workers stayed aloof. Some workers did participate in the civil disobedience movement, like boycott of foreign goods, as part of their own movements against low wages and poor working conditions. But the Congress was reluctant to include the workers' demands as part of the program of struggle. It felt that this would alienate industrialists and divide the anti-imperial forces. Another group came up. They were the business classes or the industrialists. They had great profits during the First World War and wanted to become more powerful. They reacted against the policies that restricted their business activities. They wanted protection against imports of foreign goods and a rupee-sterling foreign exchange ratio that would discourage imports. To organize business interests, they formed the Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress in 1920 and FICCI, that is Federation of the Indian Chamber of Commerce in 1927. They were being led by the industrialists like Purushottam Das Thakurdas and J.D. Birla. The industrialists attacked the colonial control over the Indian economy and supported the civil disobedience movement when it was first launched. But after the failure of Roundtable Conference, the business groups were no longer uniformly enthusiastic, and they worried about the disruption of the business as well as the growing influence of socialism among the younger members of the Congress. Next group comes over there were the women. Here you can see how the women have participated in the civil disobedience movement. They participated in the protest marches, manufactured salt and picketed foreign clothes and liquor shops. Many went to the prison also. They thought that the service to the nation is a sacred duty of the women. For a long time, the Congress was reluctant to allow women to hold any position of authority within the organization. It was keen only on their symbolic presence. Now we talk about the limitations of the movements. Under it were two main social groups that were unmoved by the concept of Gandhiji's step for the Swaraj. They were the untouchables and the Muslims. So first we talk about the untouchables, who around 1930s began to call themselves as Dalit or the oppressed. But Gandhiji declared that Swaraj would not come for 100 years if untouchability was not eliminated, as it was followed by many higher class society people. Gandhiji called the untouchables as Harijans, which means the children of the God, and for them he organized the Satyagraha to secure them entry into the temples and access to public wells, tanks, roads and schools. He persuaded the upper caste to change their heart and give up the sin of untouchability. They began organizing themselves, demanding reserved seats in the educational institutions, a separate electorate seats that would choose Dalit members for legislative councils. Dalit participation in the civil disobedience movement was therefore limited, particularly in Maharashtra and Nagpur region, where their organizations was quite strong. Under the Dalits only, the main event came up, that was the Pune Pact. The Pune Pact was signed between Mahatma Gandhiji and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Here you can see the members of the Pune Pact. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar organized the Dalits under the Depressed Classes Association in 1930. There were clashes with Mahatma Gandhiji at a roundtable conference by demanding separate electorate for the Dalits. The British government agreed to it, but Gandhiji began to fast unto death. He believed that separate electorate for Dalits would slow down the process of their integration into the society. So, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar accepted Gandhiji's position, and the result was the Pune Pact of September 1932, which was signed at Yarwala Central Jail in Pune. Now, it gave the depressed classes reserved seats in provincial and central legislative councils, but they were to be voted in by the general electorate. Next came a very major group of the society, that were the Muslims. The Muslims political organizations in India were also lukewarm, means not very definite, in their response to the civil disobedience movement, because After the decline of the non-cooperation Khilafat movement, the Muslims felt alienated from the Congress. From the mid-1920s, the Congress came to be more visibly associated with the openly Hindu religious nationalist groups like the Hindu Mahasabha. Each community organized religious processions with militant fervor, provoking Hindu-Muslim communal clashes and riots in various cities. Though the Congress and the Muslim League took various steps for making unity between the Hindus and the Muslims, but the differences came up when Muhammad Ali Jinnah, one of the Muslim League leader, was willing to give up the demand for separate electorates if Muslims were assured reserved seats in the Central Assembly and representation in proportion to population in the Muslim-dominated provinces like Bengal and Punjab. But all hope of resolving the issue at the All Parties Conference in 1928 disappeared when M.R. Jaikar of the Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed efforts at compromise. So, the Muslims feared that the culture and identity of minorities would be submerged under the domination of the Hindu majority. Next came a very important event of the Indian nationalism, which marked the blow to the Britishers out of the country. That was the Quit India movement. The slogan of it was "Do or Die." Here you can see ample amount, a large number of people participating in the Quit India. Thank you.